are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. And the topic of today's session is SQL Injections. Our guest speaker today is Hitesh Chaudhary. He is the CTO and instructor at Igneous Technologies Private Limited. Author of 3 books, 20 online training courses, and founder of newdemi.com website. Hitesh Chaudhary was trained as an electronics engineer and mastered as computer network and information security. He is renowned author, video author, international speaker, and security consultant. Also, he is trained in wireless security from professionals of MIT. He created various tools and attacks like wireless Euronomos featured in Pentest magazine and in Backtrack project. He is also an active consultant and speaker for police in India and Army intelligence, and his work was featured in 20 plus air, print and live media. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Hitesh.
Thank you so much, TechGig, for allowing me the again opportunity for presenting here. So I think we are ready to go and we can start the session. So first of all, let's start with this SQL injection. So I hope all of you are very excited about this SQL injection, and I will make sure that all of you remain excited. For this, we are going to give the practical sessions first and theoretical afterwards, because what the problem is with lots of talk, we talk and talk. We don't present the practical approach. So I would be presenting the practical approach, and let's move on to out here on the presentation. And here is my email ID. Lots of people complain me, hey Tesh, you forgot to share your email ID where we can approach you or ask some questions. Apart from them, I have created lots of courses out there at newdemi.com. I think 22 plus, all about information security to the basic trainings on C, C++. So hope you will visit that website and out there. So now let's talk about the SQL injection. Now, SQL injection is a method, I hope many of you might have heard about it. It creates a lots of massacre on the websites, or in rather general and simple words, whenever there is an SQL vulnerability in the website can be penetrated to the database level. The entire database can be ripped out, and this vulnerability has been found on lots and lots of web applications, including the good ones like Income Tax Department of India, like the Facebook, and has been reported severely out there. But again, the problem is there is no perfect solution, there is no perfect training. So I have created an explicit course on the SQL injection, and I would be sharing some glimpse of it so that you can actually start from the very scratch that how SQL works, how to protect with them, how to learn them, and lots of such questions. So I would not be wasting much time in the talks, as I have promised you to make this series as interactive and interesting. So let's get interesting first of all. I would move on to my browser so that we can actually see what we have got here out. So here is my browser on the SQL injection, and I have opened up my courses lesson 1, but I would be first of all going to lesson number 10. So this is my lesson number 10, and the very famous out there is the SQL Injection Master Course. Now what is going to happen, you might have seen this kinds of forms and everything out there in lots and lots of websites. And what people does, let me open up a notepad so that I can share some things with you. So what happened is people are going to show you some things like, hey Hitesh, you can put something like this, 0 single quote or 0 quote equals quote 0. Now people say, hey Hitesh, these types of strings can hack into any website, and this is perfectly true, but the reason is we don't understand what's happening at the back end, we don't understand how to protect it, and majorly we don't understand how this works. So let's work first of all try how this web form works. So it has got a plain simple query. I'll show you the source code as well if you wish. So first of all, I would enter as a legal admin. I'm typing my username admin and I'm typing my password, that is admin2. I'll type in the password admin and I'll hit on to the submit. And as I got hit onto the submit button, it says the thumb up sign. That means, hey, you have got perfectly logged in with the username admin. I'll zoom it a bit so that you can see it. Now what happens if, let's say, I'm logging with the username and password Hitesh and then hit a submit button. It gives me a down arrow that says, hey, you are not a legal user of this website. Now if I'm going to copy that string, that would be 0 single quote or single quote 0 single quote equals to single quote 0. If I'm going to log in with this particular code, it is going to say, hey, you can actually, I'll just copy it, Control C and Control V, and hit a submit. It allows me to log in into the website. Now why did that happen? But most importantly, how to stop it. Once you will understand how that happened, then you can easily get rid of that. Now let's analyze what is happening out there. Now the string at the back end was just SQL. Now many times people ask me again here a question, hey Tesh, my application is made in PHP, my application is made in let's say .NET, Windows Framework and JSP or anything else. But the problem is this is not actually an application that specific vulnerability. It's not dependent on the PHP, it's not dependent on the Java. It's a backend issue in the SQL, and SQL remains almost same in every language out there, whether you use PHP, ASP or anything like that. Just the small hints of query got changed, but almost logic remains same. So what the logic is hindering out here is, first of all, I have asked this part, that is 0 and quote. Now I'm putting an explicit code because at the back end I have assumed that user have got an input, is taking the input in 2 quotes. So whenever the code 0 is applied, it says, hey, is the password 0? Or that says, is the password false? That is not at all. But why I have passed this query? Just to simply take the OR part. This OR actually works very simple. Left and right or the right hand side. Either one of them, if it is true, then the result would be a Boolean. That is true. And at the right hand side, I say 0 equals 0. That will give me a true part, because 0 is equals to 0. That is going to log in into the website, because at the end of the day, the Boolean only checks this all over part is true. Now, you could have also said to me, hey Tesh, what about if I do like this? Now, this is also perfectly true. I'm just putting 1 out here. 1 will be assumed and interpreted as a true part, so that is also going to work. Now that's the really beautiful part about the SQL. You can be so much creative out here. That's why I've explicitly created a course out here. Now another interesting stuff, let's make it more interesting. What else you can do apart from logging into the website, because that's just a one part of the day. Now what I'm going to do, lots of people say, hey, hit the single quote and try to enter in the URL. Now I'm doing something extra here. I'm hitting a single quote in the username field and trying to hit the submit button. Now when I hit the submit button, now in a moment you can see that here it is. You have an SQL syntax error. Check the manual that corresponds to my SQL. Now error for the SQL. Again, a word of caution. Whenever you see these kinds of error, that means you are going to run into the trouble, because the error of the database should never pop onto the screen. Apart from that, what should have popped up here is a page not found error or something like that, that is handled by not any kind of server error. This implies that I'm somehow able to contact to the server. If I'm able to touch to the server anyhow, I can get more result from it. For example, what I can do, really the single quote is not my type. I always use the backslash, and there is a reason out here, because when I say this doesn't gives me any kind of information, the things that I have highlighted in the query, that doesn't gives me any kind of importance out here. But if I do a backslash and hit a submit, now hope you can see it. Let me just zoom it a move. Now what it gives me, that after slash there is a single quote. That gives me that, hey, at the back end there was only the single quote which was used. So what else I can do here, and let's be more creative, I can hit a single quote. Now also remember, whenever you break a query, you need to fix the query. I will fix it here by the pound sign. That means apart from outside the pound sign, everything on the right hand side is going to be the comment. Check, hey, everything is fixed now, no error at all. What else I can do here is I can hit the single quote hash, and just to save our time, I'll hit order by 3, let's say. Just hit the enter, and it says unknown column 3 in order clause. Since I have designed this application, I can be a little more joggy out here. So it says unknown order column. So it has the union all till the 2 number. Again, let's do one more thing out here to make this session very interactive. And here I would say union. I will use the keyword union to combine 2 queries. That would be all, select, and 1, 2. And now hopefully you can see that there are 2 numbers which are popped up onto the screen. That says login name 1 and the 2. Now these are the same numbers which I have entered out here. Now some of you might be saying, hey Tesh, the number is being popped up, what we can do from it? Hey, you can do lots of things with that number. Let me show you what you can do. I'll just use this one, and in place of 1, I'll use a function of the database, and I'll give it as 2 brackets. I hope all of you know that this is a function database out there in the SQL. I'll hit the submit button, and now you can see the database name is being popped up. That is security. So this is really a dangerous thing out here, that the database name is being popped up. I can use lots of queries, but that will go beyond our time scope. I can dump out the entire database, table name, the values in the database, what are you storing, and everything. So not just a user is being able to log in into the website through these vulnerable forms, but he is also able to get some really good information, juicy information I would rather say, from your website. So let's say way back when I was in my college, I found a vulnerability out there in the Facebook, the same SQL injection vulnerability. I dumped lots of username and password, but honestly I submitted it to the Facebook without leaking it out anywhere, and Facebook has got some bounty that gives to me. But really the important point is that your application can lose a valuable data, your customer information. It may be your email database, your clients, your quotations, and so many things. So I would be just pausing the demonstration here on this particular lesson. I have got so many lessons out there. I would now be trying to go on to the lesson number 1 so that I can give you one more example that how this things actually works. So this is how our lesson 1. In a moment you are going to see, here it is, SQL lesson 1. And here it says, please input the IDS parameter and the numeric value. So you might have seen this kind of parameters a lot on the websites. Question mark ID is equals to 1. The website can be in the PHP, in the ASP, in the JSP, or maybe some others as well if they exist. Now what happens, what is the actual procedure, how the hackers attacks? If you know that, you can get rid of lots of attack, how he thinks. Now lots of hackers says, hey, please input the single quote in the URL so that you can break the query. But view always says hit a backslash. Why backslash? I always emphasize on them. So let's make it clear. Whenever you hit a single quote, there is a rule out there with the brackets and quotes that they always appear in the pair. If they are 3, they are going to put up an error. And what we are doing, the 2 quotes are already being put by the programmer. We are putting our 3rd quote, so that makes a problem. But how can a backslash be creating a problem? The backslash, I hope all of you know about the C typical language. Whenever you hit a print A, it just prints out the value of the A. But whenever you give a /A, it rings a bell. That's alert. So it's not the words or letters that making a special effect of that. It's the backslash that can reduce the effect or can create an extra effect out there. So my favorite one is always the backslash. I would be hitting it, and in a moment you're going to see the error, and the error says again, the problem is with the database errors. Sometimes they exist, sometimes it doesn't, but still SQL injection is possible. So let's just, for the time being, I'm talking about the very beginners of this SQL. So it gives an error, that is, but again, the problem is not solved. It says single quote is there at the back end, so I'll just hit a single quote, And again, things are not going to work if I do a hyphen just out that, because I have created a query, but I haven't fixed the query. Now this is really a problem. Now if you're not going to fix the query, what will happen, you will put an order by and it's going to run order by 20, order by 20,000, order by 20 lakh, 20 million, and likewise. So my request is to all of you, when you break a query, try to fix the query as well. So what I did here, I entered a plus sign in the URL. There are dozens of methods being explained in my SQL course. So it really makes the things back again. Now it has changed everything into the percentage sign. I hope all of you can see out here. Let me just copy it on the notepad so that you can see. Now it has created everything into the percentage, so don't just worry about it. The percentage 20 is space. The percent 27 stands for the code. So this is how I fixed it. If I haven't fixed it with the plus sign, I could have placed in the order by 1 and so many zeros behind it, but it won't have got fixed. So that's why I have put a plus sign so that everything get fixed up. So this is the actual query. Now what you can do, the same method is going to follow up. You have to put union all select, and then after you can put 1, 2, 3 after checking the order by. Or let's just be creative and let me give you a brief overview out here. So I'll put a single quote, I'll put order by, let's say 4, and just check it. It says unknown column in 4. That means 4 column doesn't exist. So I'll put a 3 here, and it says, hey, it exists. Now let me just get rid of this part, and again, all of you know what I am going to do. I'm going to put union all select 1, 2, and 3. And if I did that this time, I didn't got any number. Now what happened actually, this is really interesting out here. Why it hasn't got any string out here or numbers out here, because this part of the query, that is id is equals to 1, is generating the result on the screen, but there is only one place, one screen where to display the second union result. So you have to make one result invalid so that the second result can appear. I'm again repeating, you have to make one result invalid to make the second result valid and appeared on the screen. How you can do that? You can do that by simply, there is id is equals to 1, make the id is equals to after number somewhat that number doesn't exist. Typical approach is put a minus sign because I know -1 doesn't exist, but that is not necessary. You can do something like 19999, so big value that doesn't exist in the database. So that also gives me a number out here. Now this 2 and 3 are the same number which I have passed in union all 1, 2, and 3. Now if I change the number, let's say in place of 3 I put a 5, it is going to give me a 5 on the screen. So that's the important part out here. Now you can choose any number to display the result from the database because it's contacting directly the database. Let me just change the 2 to the again, or let's say let's display the version this time. Last time we displayed the database. This time I'm going to display the version. It says my version is 5.6.12-log. So again, it could be dangerous. I could have dumped out the database entirely out here on the screen. It could have dumped the ID, the passwords, and everything, each and everything that is stored on your website. And the problem is the client is not ready and willing to pay for having information security check or vulnerability assessment of the website. And most of the people do these kinds of things with the automation, and they doesn't caught up much things out there unless and until you have done explicit and comprehensive training on the SQL injection. So I hope we have covered a lots of demo, and it's a good time to pop back onto my little presentation. Let me go on to the presentation mode so that I can tell you what to do, what not to do, what to believe, what not to believe. So in a moment I'll come into full screen mode. And here it is. Again, you could note my email ID and the website name where you can find the course. Yes, I know it's a shameless publicity stunt out here, but hey, I'm delivering something else. So again, my first word of caution would be whenever I give a training, a detailed training into the company, college, university, everywhere, it's highly illegal to attack and test any web application without permission. Stick to my labs only until you have got the explicit permission. So I provide all of the labs in my courses, and if you don't have, don't just jump out onto the any website and putting a single quote everywhere, backslashes everywhere. So it doesn't work like that. Anyone can sue you into the jail. So with that word, what you can do in order to make your website safe, you have to look at like this way. So let me just change the slide. Here it is. So let's say you have got your custom code here in the green and your database in the blue, and you have put a firewall, the front firewall, the back firewall. You have got a hardened OS application server, and there is an insider out here. Now insider is thinking that I have put a firewall, so I'm completely safe. Now what's the problem in the firewall? First of all, whatever the data I'm trying to put and inject, I'm putting it through the web, that is port number 80. And in the firewall also, you have to put a small hole at the port number 80. I won't call it a hole, that would be a bad word, so I would put explicit, simply, let's just be creative with some other words like explicit advantage to the port number 80 that anyone can put in data. Of course, if the customer is not allowed to the port number 80, he is not going to be able to visit the website. And if he's going to visit the website, then attackers are also going to visit the website. So that is why the attacker injects into the DEM and firewall doesn't work out at this point of time. He access to a custom code. He may trick it into your code as we did in the first part of lesson number 10. We tricked with the 0 single quote strings and all such things. I kept it very short. I know that. I could have gone through with a way beyond that. Also, apart from that, it can directly just ask to the database queries, and firewall are not going to stop you. Now, let me just clear up a couple of things. Just make sure that your firewall actually doesn't protect you. What happens actually if you are putting a firewall also, I'm not saying that firewalls are bad, you don't put it, give some expensive firewalls and out there, they are really mandatory, but the problem in the vulnerability of the design, the logics are not being able to handle by the firewalls. Of course, the port number 80 and port number 443 are accessible via the external parameters, so it cannot do anything out there with the firewall. So you cannot be safe, hey, I have a firewall, you cannot hack into my website. That's perfectly wrong. Also, the IDS, that is really a great word out there. The intrusion detection system is going to protect my website completely. Now, it helps a lot in protecting the digital signatures and all of that, but once the website is going to hack, then only you are going to put that particular signature. Hey, if someone tries this and that. So IDS is also being designed by us, so don't rely completely on the IDS. Again, IDS are good things, keep them, but don't totally rely on them. Now, third is my favorite one. The SSL secures my website. Now, what happens out there whenever anyone tries to put a SSL, hey, your website is having SQL injection attacks, then most of the people says, hey, put a SSL over there, and says if your website is going to have HTTPS, then it's a secure website. That's completely a wrong notion. You don't need to rely on that, because let's say I put a SSL. Let's discuss what SSL does actually. SSL says I'm going to encrypt whatever the parameter you are going to pass, and I'm going to decrypt again them back to the database so the database can understand them. Again encryption and again decryption. So what is going to happen? You are going to put a single code, and that is also going to get encrypted and then passed in on to the database and then again decrypted. So you can simply assume that you are helping the hackers to do a secure attack. So that's really a bad part out there. You shouldn't rely on that, and that really can vent into some troublesome. Now let me quickly go on to browser again and show you some things out there. Now SQL injection can get into a way beyond depth, and let me show you the website where you can find at least some topics to study about the SQL injection. I'll go to all courses onto my website and show you quickly the link where you can find it out there. And it's just loading in a couple of moments, and you're going to see my browser in a moment. And here it is, the SQL injection course. And at least I would recommend all of you, if you don't take it, I don't care about it, but I would highly appreciate it. But at least I would say design a secure application. Take the help of these topics. All of these things are being available to you, so that at least you can take example. And most of the people says, hey, the strip slash attacks and update query attacks works actually. So I have explicit lectures on them, how you can bypass these kinds of attacks and filters also. So once you have got understand how these filters are being bypassed, you can behave more accurately on getting onto the things working right for you. So again, let's try to be short, very, very short. I won't take much of your time out there in the company, but I would like to take this last slide. After that, I will be taking the questions. So let's just conclude everything in this small session, that it's a flaw in the web application. It's not a problem of PHP, ASP, JSP, or any other thing. It's not also a problem of the SQL. It's the problem in the logic. You haven't sanitized the things. You have not put filters out there and such other things. And still the problem is most of the people are in the early school days or college days. They are learning the programming. They are not learning these kinds of attacks and all these things. So don't just become attacky out there. Just try to learn how these are implemented, explicitly posed. Visit the OWASP website regularly. I would highly encourage that. OWASP.org is the organization for Open Web Application Vulnerability Project, and that handles a lots of such thing. But again, a lots of tutorials and demo templates are vulnerable. If you are just copying from some themes.com or something like that, make sure you have checked all of the codes, because those codes are vulnerable, especially the torrent ones. Don't ever use them. Even worse, the lot of the situation which are the solutions which are posted on the internet are not good enough. They just say, hey, put this tag, put this sanitization, and it's going to work. And that doesn't work in the real, because you are putting just the strip slashes. That's not going to work. You are going to put a WAF, the web application firewall. That's also not going to work. We have got a parameter pollution topic at the end of the course, which tells you that WAF is not going to work a lot. Up to very well out there, but you have to be very accurate about the filters. So that also works. And in my pen testing in day-to-day life, I visit the companies, do a lots of pen testing. I found that 60% of the clients I found to be vulnerable with the SQL itself. And if I talk about others vulnerability, the accesses, they are huge more than that. But let's just stick to the topic and talk about the SQL only. So these are perfectly my guidelines that will help you. Again, there is no proper solution that I can say, hey, this is the tag, implement it, and you are going to get safe. No such way occurs out there in the world. So make sure you take the knowledge of this SQL again, again, and again, so that you can take advantage of that. So I have concluded everything very quickly. I know it was, SQL can go way comprehensive, but I'll be taking this much only. Here is my email address and website. And let's just say I have already received a couple of questions on the emails, and I think lots of are popping out there in the question box. So I would be ending this session here only, and now I would be taking your details questions so that you can have some interactive session as well. So let me just hand it over to the moderator so that we can have questions.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Hitesh. Let's quickly take up the questions now. I request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the insights. Do let me know if you are able to see the questions in your questions doc.
Right now, no question has been popped up. Yes, it started to pop. The first question is from Ishan. He said, how to inject SQL commands in any website? I hope, Ishan, the question was received at the very early 5.2, and at that time I haven't started. So I hope you have got a very good session how to inject the website manually, as I have shown you a couple of ways out there. There is another question by Yashwant. Can you please suggest how to force application to go through error? Now, this is something I would like to say, that you don't force any application to go through an error. Now, there is no such way, because you have to find the things out there. If you want some database errors out there to happen into the into the website to happen, you can try the single quotes, double quotes, brackets, black slashes, lots of hard digit values, long parameters. You cannot force an application like that. But I would again request to all of you that SQL injection doesn't end here. There are cookie-based injection, there are head-based injection, there are double query injection, and a lot of things. So don't force any application, just test the application with the syntax. Again, the third question is from Raju. He says, does stored procedure sufficient to stop SQL injection? No, again, a stored procedure is not at all safe, because if you haven't sanitized the input, whether it's a stored procedure or it's a runtime procedure or anything else like that, make sure sanitization is really, really helpful out there. Now, there is another question from Vishal. Is SP help in protecting SQL injection? Now, really, what's that SP? Can you, Vishal, can you please kind of a full form? Can you give me a full form of SP? In what terms you are talking about? I would really like to take it again back. But the next question is Gaurav. He says, are stored procedure enough to save SQL injection? Again, the same question. Stored procedure are not enough. You have to sanitize the input and output. Stored procedure, whenever you are doing a stored procedure, now there is again an attack that comes into the role, that is stored accesses. Now there can also be a stored SQL injection too, but the stored accesses attack, that is cross-site scripting, can make your application into a very dangerous situation. So I would not say stored procedures are good, but if they are completely sanitized and being tested by an external pen tester, then they can be really, really good. The next question is from Abhishek.
So,
he says, I would like to know.
I'm really
Yes,
sorry to
please.
interrupt. With SP, Vishal means store procedure. So if you can take that up,
Okay,
please.
so again, the same answer would be, everyone is asking about the stored procedure, stored procedure. I know that is written on the OWASP website, but I think they have also written this, that please sanitize your input wherever you are taking. So stored procedure, don't just go madly behind it. That is the major reason why the applications are getting vulnerable to the accesses attack, and even the major ones. I could have presented this demonstration on some real websites also, but hey, lots of people are visiting and it's going to record, so I cannot put myself in the danger. So feel free to drop me an email and we can discuss the stored procedure in details out there, but again, they are not at all completely safe. The next question is from Abhishek. He says, I would like to know how our open source CMS like WordPress, Joomla, Magento are secure from this MySQL injection. Now, friend, there is a good and bad points about the WordPress. Now, WordPress has really impressed me. WordPress, Joomla, especially Magento, has impressed me a lot in the last couple of days by those updates. But again, the downside is about the 0 days. You install a third-party plugin into the website and you don't need a SQL injection to perform an attack. That is really the bad part. But the WordPress plugins which are genuine enough and stops the SQL are really, really a good ones. And a lot of biggie websites nowadays have tried to move on to the WordPress, but make sure that you keep two things in the mind. Don't install any plugin just you have found and I have installed it. Don't do that. Second, don't just stay for behind the update. If you are going to stay behind the update even for just 1 day, you can be hit by a 0 day. And 0 day attacks are really powerful. They can deface your entire website. The next question is from Rajesh. He says, is it possible to find out all vulnerabilities of SQL injection using some of the tools available? Okay, so let's talk about the tools as well. Personally, when I teach, I don't like tools, but when I work, I sometimes takes helps of the Acunetics. Now there are dozens of tools that scans your website, do some things and gives you a report. But apart from the Acunetics, it's a bit costly. I can understand that, but it's really a powerful one and I recommend to all of you. But again, I'm not an agent for that, so don't consider that. But again, if you have got your staff trained enough to protect from the SQL, because after making a website or application, if you're trying to patch all the SQL attacks, that is going to run into the trouble. But if your staff is already trained and know how that things are being done, then it can really a lifesaver. And Vishal, what is the history of SQL injection? Now, hey buddy, I'm kind of a technical person. I haven't liked the history very much, but SQL injection are really the old ones, and I don't know from when they are existing. Even you can simply say when the SQL came into the role, the SQL also there. But pretty interesting question, Vishal. But unfortunately, I'm very sorry. I don't know much about the history of SQL injection. Just apart from a couple of guys who did some good work on the double query. Apart from that, I don't know much about it. I interviewed a couple of them when I was writing my course out there for that. So sorry for that. Again, the next question is from Yashwant. Is MySQL injection work on Postgres SQL? Perfectly, it is going to work because it's not about MySQL, Postgres or anything else. It's just about the sanitization SQL queries. Some queries are going to change, but that are going to work. The next question is Sushil. Hi, you can use hyphen or percent to access the database. So how to overcome of it? So yes, I could have used the hyphen sign or percent also, but again, if I restrict all of the such queries to just being able to process, then my application is not going to run. Again, a problem. So again, sanitize your input, but alone the hyphen cannot create such a big massacre out there. But hey, if the things along with that are going to happen into a website, it can create a lots of problem. And there is a question by Mithil. You represented here SQL injection by URL, but it would be possible SQL injection by hidden fields or application or by modifying HTTP request. Yes, Mithil, you are talking about actually the double query sort of injection and the header injection. Yes, it's possible. Sometimes the application doesn't give any kinds of errors and such things. But my presentation, I kept it for the very startup people. But hey, the header injection is out there. You can visit my website. And there are a header injection in which I have shown you how you can use. There is an add-on out there that says tempered data. Again, the add-on name is tempered data, which you can plug in into your Firefox and can use to modify the HTTP request, by which we can do injection out there. The procedure is again same: union, selects, order by, lots of queries like that. But hey, it's possible. Then the next question is from Gaurav. He says, what precautions should we use while writing the stored procedure in prevention injection? Again, sanitization and using the blacklist filter. Just two and you are fine, perfectly fine. But make sure you have included all of that. And again, whatever may happen, I cannot guarantee that it is going to remain stay, because hacker do a lots of research and try to bypass whatever the filters you have tried. So filters and the sanitizations, and again the firewalls and everything should be there. Is it the fault of database design and query used to build the table and storing? I would not say the fault of the database design, because database design is a far more beyond topic than the SQL injection. But yes, sometimes it's a fault in the database, like you have seen the zero single code, that was a fault into the logic. So I would not completely say, hey database, you are a faulty one. My queries were faulty, my database was not sanitized, and my database was replying to anyone. That was the really problem. So it should have taken care that, hey, you should not reply to anyone who is asking you what's the password and giving him the password. Next question is from Ahmed, and he says, hey, my question was to, can't we constrain the SQL or the database to prevent the injection? Unfortunately, you cannot constrain the SQL or the database to prevent the injection. That is not at all going to work, because in last of the conference that I have attended, it has been broken badly. So completely constraining the SQL doesn't really work. And how do I know if an application is vulnerable to SQL? Sometimes errors are generic. Say you are injecting in username and password. I usually get invalid credentials. Now, Soumya, the invalid credential is not at all a database error. The database error was something when I put some illegal characters out there, like single quotes and backslash. It says you have an SQL syntax error. Now that was really a problematic error. But if you say, hey, get invalid credentials and you are not authentic user, these are the errors which were meant to be out there. So you are perfectly fine if you get an error like invalid credentials. That is perfectly okay. And let me go to the next question by /Jacob, and he says, only SQL injection can be done through passing the query to the parameters? No, not at all. Only SQL injection, I'm actually having two ways of your questions. Are you trying to say only SQL injection is possible or only via parameters? So I'll answer both of them. If you are saying only SQL injection is possible, then it means, then I'll say no, SQL injection accesses a URL redirection. Lots of attacks are there that can be done. And if you are saying only via parameter, if it is possible, no, if it is not only possible via parameters, you can also manipulate the header request as well, and you can also manipulate in the cookies as well. There is also a cookie-based injection. So that works. How can we prevent our website from SQL injection? Soumya, again, sanitization, use of the blacklist filter, and again, don't forget to consult with your application with a security consultant. Yeah, that is really, really required. Then we have got a Linter, question from Linter. He says, I have my own site, and as per my knowledge, I have not permitted any securities. But when I tried the code, let's say 0:0, it website or maybe quote or a bracket. So you have to actually explore your website by putting backslashes and a lot more other things and try to find out what you can replace by code 0. There are dozens of methods. Again, I would say this is not only the string that is going to work. This is just being made explicitly to just show the demonstrations. So again, try to work out more on that. Then there is a question by Snehal. It says, is htaccess will secure the website? Yes, htaccess is a good file, but don't rely them completely on them. They have got a very, very limited power. So I actually never rely on the htaccess, and that really was not my point of issue. So I always like to focus my developers wherever I go into the company that says we want your help. So I would always say don't just rely on the htaccess. That is the worst possible solution is provided on the internet. Then is there Nikhil Bhan question, can we have regex as solution to penetration? Yes, regex is a really good approach, good solution. You can put a lots of regex that says union keyword, because lots of hacker what they does, you are blocking the union keyword in the small, they put it in the caps. You put it restriction onto the caps, they put a small, one word as a small, one caps, one small. So regex is really a good one. Which DB engine would be helpful to avoid such injection? Again, there is no problem with the database. There is problem with the queries. So make sure you don't put blame on the DB. And there is how to sanitize. Sanitization is the process whenever there is an input being made by the user. You check within that particular input with a lot of functions and a lot of regex that says, hey, is there a single quote in the input? Is there a backslash in the input? Is there any other vulnerable keyword that is being used? It is there. So if that is, you just filter it out or you just block the query. That is the sanitization. And are there any open source tool in the test web application for SQL vulnerability? Yes, Sunil, there are a couple in the backtrack, and I'm just forgetting the name of a couple one, but you'll definitely find a backtrack in the Kali Linux. There are a couple open source because entire source code is available in the backtrack and Kali. There are a couple tools. I have shown them in my courses as well. There is a question by Samir that says, apart from typecasting user input, add slashes, really, they are deprecated. What else you suggest to handle SQL injection? There is, I would say there is a blacklist filter also. That contains all of the things which are out there being used, so I would also suggest that. But really, I have shown in my entire course how to bypass the add slashes, so make sure that you watch out that also. And again, there is a question by Mr. Khan. He says, does validation and code guarantee protection from SQL injection? Hey, brother, there is no such guarantee in the field of information security. A couple of years back, the Facebook was 100% safe, Orkut was 100% safe, then there was a cookie injection attack and quite other things happened. So I would not say guarantee, but yes, definitely there is a 99% protection. But again, 1% is out there, that's why hackers are out there in the world. There is a question by Lakshmi. It says parameterization would help to prevent SQL injection. Yes, definitely it is going to help you. Then there is a question by Vikas. It says, is the lesson given at Udemy are paid one or free one? They are the paid one. I actually have the paid course out there, but you could have asked me for the discount as well. I can give this much of benefit to you. And there is a Raju question. Best practice to sanitize SQL query. Can you have example of it? Right now I cannot have an example of sanitization, but if you can drop me a mail, I can give you a sample file which says, hey, there is a lots of sanitization being made. Hi Hitesh, in the PHP there is a command MySQL real escape string to filter validate email. How too much effective in these two commands to prevent SQL injection? What if I have logged special character on log on screen, and if I don't allow query string modification, but still I can modify HTTP request or response? How can I secure that? Now, if you are using the query, taking the inputs and all of such things via the cookies also, then you have to put the filterization in the cookies as well. So if someone modifies your header request, there are lots of header functions out there. Please, I would highly encourage you, Mr. Bhushan, that you please go out there and try to check out the OWASP website. Your answer is going to rely on that particular functions which are out there by ASP. Now, Avinash says, filter, validate, email, and escape string, they works, but they don't work perfectly right because you have to do a couple of more things. There is strip slashes, there is add slashes functions out there. You have to use that also. There is a question by Giri. He says, if my application is secure from SQL injection and web hosting is vulnerable, then it will be attacked. So shared hosting is not good for hosting database application. Perfect question, is Mr. Gyanendra Giri. Yes, whenever the person is able to hack into a website, he can take advantage out there of your application and can get a input and can host a shell. Now shell is really a powerful file. Once you upload a shell, then he can have access of the complete database. So this is a very old technique by the hackers. If they are hacking into a web server, they hack into all of the websites. So yes, shared hosting is never preferred, but hey, if your application is not too much valuable and you cannot afford that, then you have got no option. I would highly encourage you to go out there. And then there is a question from Mohammed again. Hey Hitesh, I am not from a programming background, however I have been very keen to learn it. However, right now I would to know how that my works now requires to me learn in the SQL and out of SQL. It's moreover about data analysis, etc. Can you help? If you're not from a programming background, then there is not much difficult to jump you out there, because I'm also from an EC background, electronics, and hacking actually made me a programmer. I first got interested into the hacking fields, and then I started my in the late second year I started programming and everything else. So whenever you start, it's not never late. So start programming now, and programmers are really having an extra hand, but there is no such compulsion. Join out my courses out there in the free versions. They are completely free to help the information security group, and that will really help you. But again, programming is really something that you should learn. It's 2014, everything runs on the programming, so don't get afraid of it. Learn the programming. And again, TechGig are having a few good courses as well. You can recommend, you can go and purchase out some of them as well. I have also mined one at the Python at the TechGig as well. And there is a question by Sushil. Can you suggest any good detection tools like SQL Block Monitor, SQL Deck, Green SQL? I would suggest you not the tools that monitors, because once you have detected an SQL, till you are going to react, the person is going to dump out the entire database. So before creating that, use the Akunetics so that you can find out on your local host that hey, application is vulnerable or not. There is a question by Rajiv. It says, how about for smartphones, how it is helpful from SQL injection? Really, I'm not into the mobile domain much now. I cannot give you the perfect answer for this question right now. Smartphones, really, I haven't touched their database yet. I haven't found any client, but definitely, just be in touch with me on my mail. I would definitely give you a feedback if I found, and I'll do some research on it, definitely. There is a question by Yashwant. What is double SQL injection and cookie injection? Double query injection is somewhat a little typical, where your queries are not being directly answered. So you manipulate the database in such a manner that it gives you an answer in yes, no format, or some, let's say, just page displayed or page not displayed format. And there are query inside a query. So this is the double query injection. In the cookie injection, we capture the cookie. We manipulate the cookies, so sometimes parameters are passed in by the cookies as well. So cookie injection is really something new in the market and recently being out, so I really emphasize on that. And there is whether using parameter instead dynamic queries will prevent. And again, this is the same question, so I'll be skipping it. So of course, the parameters are also vulnerable. Dynamic queries are also vulnerable. Both of them can be hacked. There is how can SQL injection works in HTTP request post. Yes, there are post-based injection also. There are get-based injection. The one I have showed you was the get-based injection, but same works on the post-based as well. So just look at out the codes, I would say, because it's really a lengthy answer, because everything that can happen in the get can also happen in the post if you do a little tricks and trips out there. So yes, a post-based injection also happens. There is the question, what if SQL injection is being attempted through curl post field? Yes, many times what hacker does, they try to URL encode their things, or try to UTF-8 encode their entire vulnerable strings and try to post them. That also happens, but again, we have got filter and sanitization in the filter list out there for them as well. There is a question from Bhushan. He says, is there any way to verify that request page is not modified except input control values? I cannot answer that right now, because it's a really more consulting way to answer that. So I would be skipping your question. Sorry for that. But really, answering that would not be allowed in my company right now. It's really a way beyond depth you have tried to ask, and it would really take time. So I would expecting your email, Bhushan, because you are getting into too much depth, and I want to keep the things onto the surface. There is a question by Samir. You appreciated WordPress and Joomla, so I suspect that you tend to like the security of CMS, which are framework based. Do you think framework based architecture are secure? Yes, because framework based architecture are a bit secure as compared to the manual, because lots of team are working onto that, and whenever an update is being added, it updates lots of security features. But again, I'm really afraid of the 0 days. I would again say in the CMS, I rely on anything. It's really fast, it's effective, it's SEO, it's already optimized. I like the CMS, but security, apart from the 0 day, I would always go with them. So 0 days really troubles me a lot, and some of my friends out there at some companies out there, they always post some 0 days, and whenever they post them, I just wait for the updates. So that is really the backdrop. So you have to wait for the updates. And there's a question by Nidhi. I have added backslashes in the login name while registering users on the test site, and it gets registered. Please let me know how can I test SQL injection with this. You can use the kinetics simply, and but backslashes, you have simply used the backslashes. There is a bypass of the backslash as well, and I have showed that. There is a question because how can we use the add-ons like Accesses add-on on the Firefox perfectly to test my web application? Hey, because I would not go off the topic. Accesses is not our question right now. We are focusing on SQL injection. If I got a couple of requests out there on the Accesses, I could do a webinar on Accesses also. But right now, I would like to stick on the topic, that is SQL injection. There is a question by Gaurav. How do we test our web application against SQL injection? Are there any good online tools which checks the same? Again, Akinetics, Gaurav, go for Akinetics. It's really good one. Apart from that, there are a couple others, but I do recommend them. Akinetics is a bit heavy in the price, but really good one. I have worked with those guys. They do really well. And if you can go for the Harvage as well, that's also a pretty cheap one. And I think some versions are free available. Harvage is also there, so you can go with that also. Soumya, assume question mark ID is equals to 123 bracket or 1 equals to, and this cause application to redirect to error page. Does this mean SQLI? Depends on the error. If you are having error that was meant to be there, like a page not found or something, that means no problem. If the page is having blank something, some long responses, you have an SQL syntax error, that means it's vulnerable. Manoj, what is the course interval for SQL injection? The course is actually, I have a pretty comprehensive course, so I provide a lifetime access to the course. As soon as you finish it, already all courses is being delivered in the video format, so whenever you wish, you can watch on the mobile, tablet. There is being lifetime access, there is being certification as well for the course. So just drop me an email and we can talk about that as well. When we debug the code, and this wasn't actually, it was related error in decrypting the value. Soumya, really I didn't got you this time, so I would request to please elaborate it a bit or be very specific or that I didn't got your question much. Then there is a question by TechGig moderator. Does Nihibrit help to resolve SQL injection? Yes, definitely. Nihibernate really helps a lot. So I would really say go with that and apply it everywhere. So it really helps. There is a question how SQL injection is helpful for DBAs. SQL injection is not helpful for the DBAs. It's a curse on them. It may get all the values from the database, so it's not helpful. But knowing the information about SQL injection can help your database to prevent with them. And there's a question: does using a framework in PHP or Java is better option to prevent? Yes, definitely it's a better option, but the CMS are pretty good ones. But if you're using, you can update it anytime, so you don't have to wait for the WordPress, hey, when the WordPress update is going to come, when I'm going to get secure from that 0 day. So that's really a good thing out there. So and last, there is a question, are trusted cookies are also vulnerable? Yes, cookies, any kind of cookies can be vulnerable. So it doesn't mean trusted and untrusted. You can take out any queries from that and can make it vulnerable. So I think we have covered all of the questions, and still if there are any kind of questions or anything out there, so you have got my email ID, ping me, have lots of email to me. I always reply to all of them. I think we have covered. I'll ask the moderator to take back again.
All right. I think we have one more question with us. If you can just answer that question and sum up the session for today, we are good to close. This question
Okay,
has
so
come
here's the
from
last
Ranjit
question
Singh.
Where
Yes.
should we handle SQL injection in database or application? Go for the application. Never handle the SQL injection queries in the database, because once they are into the database, they can manipulate you. So handle the queries and the injection techniques always in the application.
If you would like to sum up the session for today, you can do it now,
Yeah, definitely.
Hitesh.
Let's end up. So that was all for today's session. I'm expecting all of your emails to flood in my inbox and request for the next webinar as soon as possible. So you can suggest me the topics. I would really like to be back again here. Thank you so much for all of you for having the session with me. Thank you so much.
And I'm really thankful to our guest speaker today for conducting this wonderful webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Hitesh, for all your time. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hitesh. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.